Joining us now is Alex Marlow, who does a great job from the Salem Radio Network and also from Breitbart News. Alex, great to see you. I love your analysis. I want to have Alex on more often. He's super sharp and a great friend. Alex, one of the things that we did not cover, because I've been too busy going on these campuses across the country, is the cabinet meeting. I do want to play some piece of tape here from the cabinet meeting and then get your take of this group of all-stars and rock stars. I'm just going to pick one of the kind of cabinet meeting, let's just say, highlights. Let's pick this one. Bobby Kennedy saying by hopefully September, we will know what is causing the autism epidemic. Huge claim. Hope it's right. Play cut 249.
We are going, at your direction, we are going to know by September. We've launched a massive testing and research effort that's going to involve hundreds of scientists from around the world. By September, we will know what has caused the autism epidemic, and we'll be able to eliminate those exposures.
So big. Think of that. So it was 1 in 10,000 children had autism, and now it's 1 in 31. Not 31,000, 31. That's a horrible statistic, isn't it?
That is just one of many promises made. Alex, you're the editor-in-chief of Breitbart.com. What is your take on this all-star cabinet meeting? The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie. And always appreciate the kind words. And I really do appreciate all the things you're doing on campus. It is so essential. And I hope a lot of people follow in your footsteps because clearly these young minds are very gettable. And anything we can do to decouple the federal government from our colleges is big. And I think you're a big part of that. I'm glad you started with RFK because he had one of the most interesting presentations. I'm a massive fan of his, and is not necessarily because of the exact reasons that you might see on your favorite X account. I don't necessarily think of him as the most hardcore. I think of him as someone as the most evidence-based. And one of the reasons why I've always been drawn to him is because I actually feel like what he wants to do is just assess some of these things that we've just assumed to be true and to be okay. And maybe some of them will turn out to be fine and we can stay the course. But other times he's going to identify things that he's going to answer questions that either we haven't asked or we've assumed that the answer is a certain thing. And he went through a big list of things yesterday that I thought were really important. Let's just start with baby formula, where he's trying to get chemicals out of baby formula. The fact that we have a chemical-laden baby formula that babies consume, and that's just assumed to be a good thing and acceptable, he's going to reassess that. Obviously, we talked about the autism rates, and that's going to be a really complicated answer, but he's trying to give it to us almost right away. He also talked about something, Charlie, that I think is one of the top issues of our time, which is cell phones in schools. So younger people are completely addicted to these phones. They're not learning basic social behaviors. They're getting more depressed. They're less athletic. They're less social. They are going to become just total automatons to the Silicon Valley AI algorithms. That's not the America we want. It's not the America you and I got to grow up in, Charlie, and we don't want this for young people. And he's making this a top tier issue. His list was so long. It was one of the longest lists around, talking about the EPA getting fluoride out of the water. There's so many things that he's trying to do. School lunches. Remember how horrible Michelle Obama's school lunch program is? We actually have a guy who understands nutrition now in charge of it, not some sort of a ceremonial person. And another one of my favorites, the government money should not be used for junk food. We talk about MAHA. The most fundamental thing with MAHA, Charlie, is we all eat too much. We all eat bad stuff with too many ingredients in it, and we don't exercise enough. He's going to get us on that path, and I just dig it so much.
So every so often, I'll get, let's just say, a little bit of a pompous brat on campus that says, you know, Charlie, it's been 75 days and Trump isn't fulfilling his promises, which is just a ridiculous, ludicrous thing to say. These are people that honestly exist to be disagreeable and they have nothing better to do. I mean, look, you can have well-intentioned feedback, but to say that President Trump's not fulfilling his promises is one of the most meritless of all of them. And by the way, these are criticisms from the right, just to be perfectly clear. These are not criticisms from the left. But I mean, we have a secure border. We've seen massive tariffs, obviously. We're seeing the deportation effort. I want to see even more of what we've already seen. What is your take? I think that criticism is so ludicrous and ridiculous, and it is a minority without a doubt. I don't think that's there. But I do want to make sure that we keep the encouragement on. I don't even want to say the pressure on. We should keep the encouragement on the administration to stay the course and to keep on reminding themselves why they are there and what they promised the American people to do.
Look, Charlie, you and I are creatures of the internet. We're both very online people, but this is something that I hear from the extremely online crowd, that there's not enough that's getting done. And I am with you. I think we need to go harder. Of course, I always want to go harder. But when I'm seeing some of these numbers that are coming in with the amount of cuts that we're getting from Doge, with the amount of arrests that we're getting from ICE, I think they're pretty good numbers. But I don't like when sometimes there's a delta between what we're hearing from different groups. I talked to Senator Ernst about Doge cuts. She said we were at a quarter trillion. Musk said yesterday we're at 150 billion. I always wonder a little bit when there's a little bit of a data gap, because then maybe I don't know what's going on. But overall, I'm with you. I think some of the deregulation is getting underreported. I think the cuts to the campuses is getting underreported. I think the efforts we're making in Panama is so huge to counter China. I think Greenland is so important to counter China. I think this hill we're dying on now, hopefully with these tariffs, is so monumental. This is a earth-shaking event, and Trump is the only person on earth with the guts to do it. I think we're off to a rip-roaring start, so I'm pretty dang satisfied personally, and hopefully that means something to your audience.
So, Alex, I want to now get to this, which is the geopolitical implications of the Panama Canal. Let's play cut 179.
I want to be very clear. China did not build this canal. China does not operate this canal, and China will not weaponize this canal. Together with Panama in the lead, we will keep the canal secure and available for all nations through the deterrent power of the strongest, most effective, and most lethal fighting force in the world. We will do this in partnership with Panama. Together, we will take back the Panama Canal from China's influence. And we will do this along with other capable, like-minded allies and partners. This is what peace through strength looks like.
And a lesser reported element yesterday, Alex, was that Panama has now allowed the U.S. to deploy troops to the canal. The document signed by top security officials from both countries allows U.S. military personnel to deploy to Panama-controlled facilities for training, exercise, and a range of other activities. Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio have done a phenomenal job where Panama is inviting the United States, because deep down I think Panama does not want the Chinese Communist Party controlling this thoroughfare and this choke point. Your thoughts, Alex?
Yeah, exactly right. The Panamanian government has been cooperative, and it's really the Chinese government that's infuriated, and they're probably putting a lot of pressure on them that we might not be able to see. But the government itself, they filed criminal charges against a Hong Kong company that controls a lot of those key ports, which obviously is going to infuriate China. But China is making it that Hegseth and America, that we're going rogue there. But it's not true, because the Panamanian government would like to see this handed off to America, or a partnership between Panama and America, and not have China control this choke point, as you say. That's exactly right. And I feel like that China's incursions via Belt and Road, via BRICS into our hemisphere is not acceptable. And the fact that we built them a thoroughfare to do that is completely insane. And this is exactly the stuff that the Donald Trumps of the world and the Pete Hegseths of the world, outsiders coming in, I see very clearly. And this is one where we're absolutely butting up against China, and that's a good thing.
And we must understand, America built the Panama Canal. America built the Panama
and we
Canal.
lost many lives.
Jimmy Carter, right, Blake? That gave
Yes.
it back to Panama. And yes, we lost 5,600 workers. You might say, how did we lose so many people? Primarily due to mosquito-borne diseases. Actually, that was the number one reason why we lost so many people. It was mosquito-borne diseases that the American workers got while building the Panama Canal. We liberated Panama itself to build it. Panama was a part of Colombia. And so we actually liberated Panama from Colombia, lost over 5,600 people. And just to be perfectly clear, I believe that is more than died on 9/11, and 5,600 is just about as much as I believe died in Iraq. Again, I'm just approximating from some memory, but some people say as much as 30,000 workers died by the time they came back home because of diseases. And think about that. And we just handed it to our greatest enemy, the Chinese Communist Party. Again, I'm probably lowballing some of these numbers, but that's conservative estimate. So what are you doing this Easter to celebrate with your family? Our good friends at Angel Studios have an incredible movie coming out this Easter called The King of Kings, an animated story of the life of Jesus, featuring an all-star cast including Oscar Isaac, Forrest Whitaker, and more. King of Kings brings the story of Jesus to the big screen for a whole new generation. Become a premium member in the Angel Studios Guild, get 2 free tickets to see King of Kings, and join the Angel Guild as a premium member at angel.com/Kirk. Check out King of Kings in theaters this Easter. Alex, I know something you're very passionate about and something that you've been covering on at Breitbart is decoupling the federal government from higher education. Explain what you would like to see happen in that regard with our audience.
Yeah, so I'm really thrilled to see the Department of Education winding down, Charlie. But I think that one thing, I was thinking about this a lot when you're talking about Hillsdale earlier, about how if something is worthwhile, then people are going to step up and they're going to fund it when it comes to education, when it comes to our future. And I don't understand why the federal government is invested in any of these universities at all at this point. So many of them are self-sustained by their endowments, which are essentially just hedge funds, and they can operate enough so that they don't even need to collect tuition at this point, much less federal funds, and yet they're still able to get it. But I think there's a toxic university culture that permeates out into our society. Think about this, Charlie. We all know that our inner cities are not doing well, but one of the things that is a unsung part of this, an unheralded part of this, is the fact that these universities come in, they set up shop in our big cities. They bring in all these left-wing people who vote terribly. They get all these federal funds to sustain this huge economic system that drives the university campus, et cetera. They get all these parents who save money, and then they take out loans, and they send all these kids to schools. And then what happens? The kids get these terrible values, and then they vote horribly. They vote for the George Gascons of the world. They vote for the Soros-funded DAs. And it's actually ruining not just people's minds, but it's ruining our cities. And so this is why I feel like it's sort of an existential issue for us to take away their opportunity to get the federal funds as fast as possible, because it's not just ruining the schools, it's also ruining our cities. The cities is the incubators for where left-wing thought is gestating and then permeating out into the rest of the culture. The suburbs are doing fine. Rural America is doing amazing. We need to get people out of the cities. And one of the ways to do this is to get the universities out of the cities.
That's well said. One of the other things that we need to do, and I want the Trump administration to push for, is radically cut down the number of jobs you need a college degree to fill. Encourage companies to replace them with standardized tests, practical exams, or thorough in-person interviews or internships to jobs. A lot of that went away because of DEI issues, that, practical exams are racist or whatever. Basically, the government said it was too racist to require a test to work somewhere, but not to require a degree. I believe DEI is the hidden regulation that has been strangling American business, and I think that DEI could be responsible for 1% to 2% of GDP growth over a couple years if we keep it. I know that might sound extreme. I know people might laugh at that, but DEI is definitionally an anti-growth initiative. Alex, final thoughts here, about a minute remaining.
Yeah, it can't be talked about enough. DEI is an absolute cancer in our society and is far away. And Charlie, I know how you hired. I know you've always rejected it, and so that's a compliment to you. But that is so right on, and we need to absolutely not have that. But I'll tell you, I blew Dennis Prager's mind, because Dennis Prager, our friend, he asked me when I'm hiring at Breitbart, if I see a Harvard on the resume, does it help? And I had to think about it, and I said, I don't really think so anymore. And someone who is an academic guy, 50 years ago, the thought that in a half a century, Harvard would not add to your resume, it just shows you stop wasting your money on these places, get those internships going for your kids.
Alex, excellent, sharp commentary as always. 30 seconds. Tell people about your show, Breitbart.com, what you're doing with Salem. Tell people all about it.
Oh, thank you, Charlie. We're colleagues now at Salem. I'm on the Salem Podcast Network, so you can get it iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, wherever you're doing it. We're off to a fast start because I got such great friends like you, and it is having a blast. Breitbart.com is absolutely thriving right now. We are the paper of record for the Trump administration. We call the balls and strikes, and I think you'll always find something entertaining and informative on our pages every single day.
I love Breitbart.com. Phenomenal. I got my start at Breitbart.com, and that I will never forget. Alex, thanks so much.
Thank you, Charlie.